The millionaire's shout resonated, but her hidden reply transformed the office in an instant. The room was electric. Karen Wright, the Millionaire CEO, stood tall in her designer suit, her voice like a thunderclap crashing through the air, as she decried the team's efforts as lacking. Emma Johnson, an administrative assistant in the back, felt every word like a knife twisting in her chest. The office, a bustling hive of activity, now echoed with silence, a fearful anticipation hanging thick. This was a place where privilege and ambition clashed, and today, it felt as though oppression reigned supreme. As the meeting continued, whispers of wealth and power flowed like syrup around the room. Emma listened as her colleagues, bedecked in flashy watches and luxury brands, regaled one another with tales of their glamorous vacations and recent promotions. She felt invisible among them, a shadow clinging to the walls of a mansion she could never enter. Single motherhood and bills weighed down her spirit, but her heart radiated with a fierce hope that there was more to life than mere survival. She helped neighbors when times were tough, shared her groceries, and fought back tears at the simple joys faded by her realities. "Are you even paying attention?" Karen snapped, her eyes piercing through the crowd. The tension reverberated like a taut string just waiting to snap. Emma lifted her chin, a subtle flame igniting inside. It was now or never. With trembling hands, she inhaled a shaky breath and felt her heart race as she stood. "Excuse me, Karen," she began, her voice quivering but clear, "but we need to talk about harder truths." The office fell silent, a congregation of startled faces. Emma pressed on, pouring her heart out in a voice steadied by indignation. "Success isn't just about wealth. It's about grit, determination, and the sacrifices we make. We work long hours, pour our hearts into this place, and yet you dismiss us as if we matter little in the grand scheme." Her words exploded in the air, igniting embers of longing and understanding. In that stifling room, the spirit of resilience blazed brightly. Emma's passionate declaration resonated with others, small murmurs began to ripple, a wave of shared frustration swelling among her colleagues. They were tired of being overlooked, tired of their hard work being quantified by their bank balances. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Then, as voices grew louder, the underlying struggles that she had always known spilled into view like a flood. Everyone seemed to be crying out for change, for recognition and equality. Just as camaraderie began to flourish, an unexpected hush fell over the room as they all realized who they were facing. Karen Wright, the powerful, demanding figure they had idolized, now seemed vulnerable, haunted by her past. In that moment, Emma saw a flicker in Karen's eyes, perhaps nostalgia, perhaps regret. Maybe, just maybe, they were not so alien to one another. A deep breath gave way to unspoken understanding, but Emma could feel the ground shifting beneath her. What would follow? Would her brave stance unite them or drive a wedge even deeper? The uncertain silence loomed heavy, beckoning the truth of their shared humanity to take center stage. Emma's heart raced, caught between fear and hope, standing on the precipice of transformation. Would this moment spark real change, or would it wither in the face of unanswered questions? The road ahead remained tangled, but one thing was clear: their struggle was just beginning. The silence in the room seemed to stretch on forever. Emma felt her heart pounding, each beat echoing in her ears. She had laid bare her thoughts, her desires, a moment of vulnerability that felt terrifying yet invigorating. What would Karen say? Would she strike back with defiance? Would she see the light that was flickering in Emma's soul and the souls of her colleagues? And then, Karen took a deep breath, the tension thickening the air further. Her expression shifted from annoyance to something more complex, a mix of surprise and contemplation. "You think I don't understand struggle?" she asked, her voice surprisingly calm. That I've just floated through life on a golden yacht? Emma's eyes widened in surprise. The room was holding its breath. I'm not saying that, she replied cautiously. But the way you've spoken to us makes it feel like we're just cogs in a machine. We're human beings, and our contributions deserve respect. A murmur rippled through the crowd, growing louder as other voices joined in, each speaking with raw sincerity and urgency. She's right. A voice called out. Another added, we work ourselves to the bone, and all we get in return is dismissal. Karen straightened up, the fire sparking in her once cold demeanor. You don't know the sacrifices I made to get here. I've faced my own demons, she admitted, her tone softening. But maybe I haven't been the leader you all deserve. For a moment, the air crackled with something electric, a potential for change. The barriers that had once confined them began to dissolve. Emma's heart began to swell with hope. Could this desperate plea for understanding truly alter the trajectory of their workplace? We all want to succeed, but we need to do it together, Emma continued, her confidence blossoming with every word. Let us find a way to support one another, to unlock each other's potential. Success should lift us all, not push us apart. Karen nodded slowly, as if letting the words sink in. The softness in her eyes deepened, reflecting an unfamiliar emotion. The room was shifting, and for the first time, it felt like they were all on the same side. Just then, the office door swung open, and in strode Mr. Simmons, the company's head of finance, a man known for his hard-lined ways. He looked around, surprised at the unusual atmosphere. What is going on here? He barked with authority, his eyebrows furrowing as he scanned the crowd. The sudden intrusion felt like a bucket of cold water dousing the warmth that had begun to spread. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. Would Mr. Simmons derail this moment? Would he side with Karen and dismiss their collective voice? Karen straightened her back, gathering strength from the moment. Actually, Simon, we were just discussing how we can improve our work environment. Perhaps it's a good time for all of us to share our thoughts. Emma held her breath, torn between fear and anticipation. She watched as Mr. Simmons eyed Karen skeptically, then shifted his gaze to the assembled team. The silence felt charged again, each person waiting for his response. Would he dismiss their growing unity? Or could this be the beginning of something different for all of them? As he opened his mouth to speak, Emma's heart raced. Any moment could change everything. Would the pennies of their voices finally stack up to create a resonant change, or would the forces of the old guard snuff it out before it had the chance to ignite? The question lingered, heavy with hope and uncertainty, as everyone prepared for what came next. Mr. Simmons opened his mouth, the tension palpable, his words teetering on the edge of authority and confusion. This isn't how we do things, he started, his voice sharp and full of authority. We need productivity. Not before he could finish, Karen stepped forward, her voice steady but fierce. Respect isn't about turning a profit at all costs, Simon. It's about understanding our people. This team deserves to be valued, not just as numbers on a spreadsheet. They have voices. Let us hear them. The room gasped collectively, eyes wide and minds whirring. Emma breathed out a sigh of relief, her heart racing in sync with the rising tension. This wasn't the typical display of Karen's professionally polished composure. This was raw honesty, stripped bare of pretense. Mr. Simmons paused, his frown deepening as he processed what he was hearing. You think this is about respect? This is business, Karen. Numbers matter, he rebutted. And what happens when those numbers start walking out the door? Karen shot back, her tone laced with conviction. People will not work in this kind of environment. It's the truth that is more important than any number. We can't overlook our humanity. As if magnetized, every employee leaned a little closer, their hearts beating in sync with a newfound rhythm of hope. Emma felt buoyed by Karen's words, a surge of energy washing over her. Maybe it was possible for the two sides to meet in the middle. Maybe their voices could actually create a shift. Simmons looked flustered, caught off guard by this turn of events. Emma noticed a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Perhaps he hadn't anticipated such a rebellion, even one grounded in compassion and sincerity. "Your positions are not up for discussion," he said, though his voice wavered. Emma felt compelled, the fire ignited within her. "It's time for a discussion, Simon." It came out more boldly than she intended, but her pulse quickened with every heartbeat. "We want our thoughts heard. We want to make this team stronger, together." The quiet murmur of agreement echoed around the room. Voices she had thought were hesitant now joined hers. "This is only going to work if we stop thinking of each other as mere resources," another colleague chimed in. "We have potential that can't be measured by metrics." Simmons's expression morphed from irritation into a grudging consideration. He glanced at Karen, who stood resolute, a pillar of strength. The office suddenly felt smaller, filled with everything they were too afraid to say before, a collective heart beating as one, melding the lines of management and employees. "I can't." Mr. Simmons hesitated, his authority cracking. "You don't expect me to change the way we operate overnight, do you?" The silence was deafening as everyone held their breath, waiting for the answer. Would this moment spark a flame, or would it just fizzle out? Emma could sense the hope hanging in the air, shimmering just beneath the surface. Then Karen broke the quiet with a gentle nod. "Change isn't overnight. But it starts here. Together. And that's all we're asking for." As a tremor of anticipation ran through the crowd, Emma realized they held the power to shape their own destiny. They were all ready for transformation. Just then, a text alert rang out, shattering the momentary calm. Wide-eyed, Emma fished her phone from her pocket and glanced down. The message was from her husband: "Meeting tonight, big news." Her heart skipped a beat. What news could possibly be more important than this? And in what way would it affect her? As doubts and possibilities tangled in her mind, Emma's thoughts raced. Would tonight change everything for her, both at home and at work? A spiraling mix of excitement and apprehension washed over her as she looked back at the room, ready for whatever came next. They were on the brink of something monumental. What awaited her would soon unfold in ways she couldn't yet see. Emma's heart was still pounding as she put her phone away. The meeting felt electric, a turning point that could redefine everything. She glanced around. Everyone else was still wrapped up in the heated moment. Would Simmons actually listen? Would they really create a culture that prioritized empathy over efficiency? "Let's put it to a vote," someone shouted from the back, breaking through Emma's racing thoughts. "Right," chimed another voice, strengthened by the conversation. "Let's force their hand. We deserve a say." The energy in the room shifted, becoming charged with a communal eagerness. Emma smiled. Maybe they really could create change. Glancing at Karen, she saw a look of pride radiating from her. "Let's stand together," Karen said, her voice rising above the growing noise. "We're stronger as one. You can't ignore us if we are unified." "Exactly. We deserve to be heard," Emma added, finding her voice in the swell of agreement. "Mr. Simmons visibly shifted in his seat. The crinkling of his suit jacket was like a storm brewing. "This isn't a democracy," he retorted, his tone muted by the chorus of dissent gathering momentum. A wave of murmurs swept through the team, voices overlapping, filled with hope and conviction. Emma felt her palms grow sweaty. How would Simmons react? Suddenly, the fear of failure clawed at her. If he shut them down, all of this would be for nothing. The weight of the moment was heavy, but the unity around her felt like a shield. "Are you going to make us walk out?" Karen called out, refusing to back down. At the edges of the room, some employees shifted, their resolve hardening. This was no longer just about business practices, it was about respect, recognition, and the dignity of being part of a team. "What's it going to be, Simon?" someone else piped up. Emma held her breath, her heart a cacophony. Each second stretched into eternity as she watched the conflict play out on Simmons's face, a blend of exasperation and soul-searching. He finally leaned back, reluctant yet compelled. I need some time to consider. Things are not as easy as you think. The response didn't garner any relief. How much time? Karen pressed, embodying everyone's urgency. Simmons hesitated. Let us meet tomorrow same time. We'll discuss options. A wave of uncertainty rolled through Emma. Tomorrow? What would happen then? The moment felt precarious, filled with peril yet tinged with hope. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Karen stepped forward. Thank you for hearing us out. This is just the beginning. She looked around at the team, her temporary spotlight illuminating the determination they shared. Emma felt a swell of camaraderie among them. The collective heart of the office pounded in unison. This was their moment. As they began to disperse, the investigators of the meeting hesitated, lingering for a moment, unsure of what came next. Emma could sense the nervousness ebbing away, replaced by a flicker of empowerment. They had raised their voices. They were not shadows behind numbers anymore, but as she headed towards the exit, her phone chimed again. With curiosity clawing at her, she checked the screen. There's something I need to tell you that could change everything, her husband's message read, the seriousness behind it slashing through her hopeful bubble. Dread spilled into the cracks of her excitement. What could be so monumental? The race in her heart for change at work was now competing with the unknown. Was she ready for both to turn her world upside down? Would this meeting redefine her life as she knew it? Fighting back a wave of anxiety, Emma prepared herself for whatever news was waiting at home. She stepped outside, breathless, clutching her phone. Change was looming on both fronts and the storm had only just begun. Would she find strength to handle both the upheaval at work and whatever challenge awaited her at home? Emma's mind raced as she made her way to her car, her phone still gripped tightly in her hand. The sunlight slanted down, casting golden rays on the pavement, but all she felt was the looming shadow of uncertainty. Her heart pounded not from the victory of the meeting, but from the question that hung heavily in the air: what could her husband possibly want to share that was so critical? She slid into the driver's seat, the leather cool against her skin. Setting her phone on the dashboard, she took a steadying breath before tapping on the message. Meet me at our spot. I need to tell you in person. Emma's stomach dropped. Our spot was the little cafe down the street where they had shared countless moments, dates, laughter, and dreams about their future. But it also brought a pang of nostalgia that hinted at troubles beneath the surface. What news could warrant a meeting there? The drive felt suffocating, with every stoplight and turn evaporating her excitement from the meeting. Would the same tenacity that inspired her at work translate into her personal life? Arriving at the cafe, Emma's heart skipped as she spotted her husband sitting at a familiar corner table, the sunlight catching his features in a warm glow. But today, his expression wasn't joyful, it was wrought with tension. Hey, he greeted with a shaky smile as she approached, his eyes searching hers. Hey, Emma replied, trying to mask her own unease. What is going on? Let us order first. He nodded at the counter. They each chose their usuals, but the anticipation made everything taste bland. As they sat down, Emma leaned forward. Please, you're scaring me. What is so important that you couldn't text it? He sighed deeply, running a hand over his hair. I got some news today, unexpected news. News about what? She pressed, feeling her heart pound faster. It's about the company. I was offered a huge promotion, but his voice trailed off, eyes darting away. But? Emma urged, her intuition telling her this wasn't just about a promotion. That he took a deep breath, gathering his courage. What they want from me, it's not right. It doesn't align with who I am. Emma's pulse quickened at the implications. The tension in the air was palpable. What are you saying? You can't just walk away from a major opportunity like that. I know, but I'm not willing to compromise my principles. They want me to push for sales numbers, to cut corners. I can't do that. A silence hung between them. Emma could hear the faint bustle of the cafe, voices blending into a murmur, but inside her, uncertainty churned. "Are you seriously considering refusing it?" "Yes," he said simply, locking his gaze with hers, his expression unwavering. Emma's chest tightened. What if he went through with it? What if they took hits at home while she fought for change at work? The reality of their lives was merging into a chaotic web of challenges. But then she caught a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. What if we both fight for what we believe in? He hesitated, weighing her words. You mean both fighting at the same time? What if it doesn't work? Then we'll figure it out, together, Emma said, feeling a surge of determination ripple within her. The resolve that had ignited within her a few hours ago felt like a fire igniting again, pushing through the worry and fear. Just as she began to feel hopeful, her phone buzzed once more, the screen lighting up with an incoming call from an unknown number. They both exchanged a look, a new tension floating between them. Should you answer it? Her husband asked, brow furrowing. Maybe it's work, Emma said, but her instinct tugged at her. Who could this be? Taking a deep breath, she answered the call, anxiety threading through her veins. Emma? It's Johnson. We need to talk. The color drained from her face. What could this mean? Was the world at work about to collide with her life at home? As she listened, she felt the stakes rising, tension mingling with anticipation. What was the next twist in her tumultuous ride? Emma's heart raced as Johnson's voice echoed through the phone, pulling her focus. The cafe chatter faded away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of tension. What is going on, Johnson? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Listen, I know this is short notice, but there's been a shift in the company. We're restructuring. And I need you to lead a new project, he said, his tone urgent. It's a big one, Emma. Top level. She glanced at her husband, whose expression had turned grave. I'm listening, she said, trying to hide the storm brewing in her chest. This wasn't just an offer, it was a demand for change. Your vision is key for what we're planning. But, it's going to involve working directly with the new leadership team after they push for aggressive targets. Her breath caught. I can't compromise my values, Johnson. Like my husband just said. I know, he interrupted, his voice firm but concerned. But this could shift everything for you personally and professionally. Your career could take off. Emma's thoughts collided. The weight of the conversation with her husband hung heavy in the air, a contrast to the tantalizing promise of this new opportunity. The idea of leading a project that could potentially change the company felt like it tugged on her soul, but how could she do that while supporting her husband's stand against a corrupt system? Emma? Johnson pressed. Do you understand what I'm offering? She took a deep breath, glancing at her husband, whose wide eyes reflected his turmoil. I do, she responded finally, her voice steadier than she felt. But I can't make this decision without talking to my husband first. Johnson was silent for a beat, then cleared his throat. I understand. Just think about it, okay? We're moving fast, and this will likely change things at your department. The call ended, leaving a vacuum of silence that felt loud and oppressive. Emma stared at her phone, trying to process everything that had just unfolded. She felt her husband's eyes on her, and the atmosphere shifted again. What did he want? He asked quietly, his expression tight. He wants me to lead a new project, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But it's going to push the same agenda he just asked you to reject. He blinked, absorbing the news. And what are you thinking? What can I say? This could be my chance. But at what cost? His frustration bubbled to the surface. It's the same struggle. You can't sell out to climb the ladder. Then what am I supposed to do? Emma shot back, feeling the pressure mount. A good leader can create change from the inside. Can't I be that person? She sensed a flicker of understanding in his eyes, but it was mingled with concern. What if they change you instead? In that moment, the weight of two potential futures pressed down on her, each path lined with sacrifices and principles. "I don't know," she whispered, her heart racing. "All I know is that I need to make this choice with thought and care." The tension in the cafe felt suffocating, like they were the only two people in a crowded room filled with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. As they sat in silence, their minds spun, torn between hope and caution. Then her phone buzzed again, another unknown number, another chance for clarity or chaos. Emma hesitated, looking at her husband. "Should I?" He nodded, but the worry in his eyes told her he would rather avoid more surprises. Taking a deep breath, she answered the call, her pulse quickening once more. "Emma?" The voice was deeper, authoritative. "This is Gardner from corporate. We need to discuss your future." Her stomach dropped. Was this news going to shift everything she had fought for, or were they just pulling her into a storm she didn't want to be part of? Emma gripped the phone, uncertainty clouding her mind as she faced an unknown decision that could change the trajectory of her life once more. Would she fight her corner or step into the spotlight? "Emma?" Gardner's voice rang out, steady and confident. "I appreciate you taking the time. I understand you have some reservations about the project." She took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I just want to know how it aligns with my values. I don't want to compromise on what I believe in." "Of course. But you have to understand the stakes," he replied, his tone shifting slightly. "This project isn't just another task. It's about steering the company into a new direction, your direction, potentially." The room felt smaller, the air thicker. "You mean my direction at what cost?" Emma asked, her voice gaining strength. Gardner paused, as if considering his response. "Sometimes, the cost of leadership demands sacrifice. You have potential, Emma, a vision that can drive real change. We want you to bring that vision to life. Real change or just more of the same under a new guise?" Emma challenged, her heart pounding. She sensed her husband's eyes boring into her, searching for reassurance amidst the growing storm in her mind. "It's your call to make," Gardner said quietly, "but you have to act quickly. The company is counting on bold leaders, ones who can adapt and innovate." The weight of choice pressed down upon her chest like a leaden blanket. If she said yes, she might be burying her values deeper than she ever intended. If she turned it down, would she regret the lost opportunity forever? "Emma, are you with me?" Gardner's voice cut through her thoughts. I need to think," she managed, her words feeling frail. "This is a lot." "I understand," he said, his softer tone reassuring yet insistent. "Just know the door will close soon. Don't let fear dictate your path. Great leaders face challenges head-on, and rise." She could sense her husband's presence, a mix of worry and pride shadowing her decision. Finally, she replied, "Can I call you back?" "Of course. Just keep in mind what's at stake. I'll be waiting." With that, the call ended, leaving her in a swirl of emotions. She looked across the table at her husband. "What do I do?" He ran a hand through his hair, his brow creased. "It's not just your decision, Emma. It's ours. You know I want what's best for you. I want what's best for us, for our future. But if I take this, am I losing who I am? Maybe you can redefine who you are without losing yourself. But you have to be aware of how easily that line can blur." Emma felt a sharp pain twist in her gut. Could she really step into a role like that, straddle the line between her ethics and ambition? "I don't have to decide now, right?" she said, more to convince herself than anything. True. But this opportunity won't sit in the air forever. The coffee shop buzzed around them, but Emma felt encased in her own bubble. Her thoughts raced. If she chose to pursue this path, would she be seen as a sellout? A traitor to her ideals, or could she carve her own space and fight for change from the inside? "Emma," her husband said softly, "whatever you choose, I'll stand by you." Just don't forget us in this process. Tears pricked at her eyes unbidden. Thank you for being my anchor. Just then, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Johnson, a simple request yet it felt monumental. Can you meet later today? I need your answer. Her heart rocked. The clock was ticking, urging her to come to terms with her choice. Emma. Her husband's voice pulled her back. Are you all right? She stammered, feeling lost in a sea of uncertainty. I need to figure out what all right means. But I can't ignore this opportunity to lead. As she stared at the phone, it struck her, this was her moment to transition from follower to leader even if it meant diving into uncertainty. But a thought loomed, dark and insistent. If she chose this path, would she emerge a hero or be swallowed by her ambitions? Steeling her nerves, Emma knew one thing, whatever decision she made would shape not just her career but their shared future as well. In that moment, she grasped the weight of her next steps, and as she contemplated how to respond, a new urgency climbed within her. Emma. Are you ready? Could she really take the leap into uncharted waters? Would she become the change she wanted to see, or would the waves simply crash over her? With her heart racing once more, she knew it was time to finally decide. Emma felt the air shift, thickening with anticipation and fear. The words echoed in her mind, the door will close soon. It was as if Gardner had cast a spell, she was frozen between desire and dread. She glanced at her husband, who was watching her closely, his face a mix of encouragement and concern. His eyes spoke volumes. He was the calm she needed, a grounding force amidst the chaos swirling in her heart. What are you thinking? He asked gently, reaching across the table to hold her hand. I don't know, this is everything we've worked toward, and yet it feels so wrong at the same time, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. She was torn, caught in a web of ambition and ethics. The stakes felt impossibly high. Sometimes the hardest choices are the right ones, he replied, squeezing her hand. But only you can know if this is worth that kind of risk. With a deep breath, Emma turned her focus back to the phone in front of her. She tapped it, muscles tense. Johnson, a thoughtful man with a no-nonsense demeanor, would expect a quick answer, perhaps even a simple yes or no. But it wasn't that easy, her future dangled precariously, waiting on her choice. What if I say yes and it turns out I'm just perpetuating the cycle? She muttered, almost to herself. What if I lose sight of everything I care about? Then fight for it, her husband replied, his voice steady. Use that power to drive change. Don't think of it as a compromise, but rather as a challenge to redefine what you stand for. His words sank in. A newfound determination stirred within her. You're right. This isn't just about me. It's about finding a way to ensure our values aren't just a whisper in the corporate wind. She drew in a shaky breath, her mind racing. Maybe this was a chance to prove that leadership didn't have to mean abandoning ideals. Perhaps the opportunity to influence real change lay hidden within the very position she feared accepting. I can be the advocate for those values, I can challenge the system from within, she said, her voice gaining strength. Exactly, her husband affirmed, admiration shining in his eyes. You have the power to mold this opportunity into something that aligns with who you are. Emma felt a spark ignite within her. This was about more than just a job, it was about creating a legacy. All right, she said with renewed clarity. I'll meet with Johnson. I just have to go into this with my eyes wide open. Her heart raced with each thought of what lay ahead. She'd have to navigate murky waters with caution, but this was her chance to ensure that her voice wasn't just heard but resonated. But just as she reached for her phone, a feeling of uncertainty crashed over her like a wave. What if I can't manage it? What if I lose everything? Even if you fall, you won't be alone, her husband reassured, a tender resolve in his gaze. We'll figure it out together. With her heart pounding and her spirit ignited, Emma hit reply. She typed a simple message, I'm in. Let us meet. The decision felt monumental, yet equally terrifying. The vast unknown loomed ahead, thrilling and daunting. As she sent the message, she couldn't help but feel she was teetering on the edge of a high cliff, looking down into the uncertainty below. Would she soar to new heights, or would she merely drop into the abyss? "Are you ready for this, Em?" her husband asked, breaking into her thoughts once more. Emma hesitated, the weight of her sudden choice enveloping her. She had to embrace the reality of her decision. Only time will tell, and with those words, she stepped firmly into the unknown, with hope and trepidation dancing together in her heart. But deep down, a nagging question lingered: would this be the moment she stepped into the light, or would she find herself lost in shadows she couldn't escape? Emma paced the room, the phone still buzzing with the finality of her decision. Each vibration felt like a knot tightening in her stomach. She could feel the citrusy scent of the candle on the table, a small comfort in a moment of chaos. It was meant to be calming, yet now it seemed like a cruel irony. Nothing about this felt calm. Her husband watched her, leaning back in his chair, his brows slightly furrowed. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low and steady. "Not really. I mean, is this what it takes?" Emma replied, her breath hitching. "To be successful, you have to play this game. I can't shake the feeling that I'm selling out." The walls felt like they were closing in, and the shadows of doubt danced around her like ghosts. "Success doesn't have to come at the cost of your integrity," he said, sitting up straighter. "But you know that. You're not doing this for just the title. It's for change." She shook her head, her thoughts swirling. "What if I get caught up in the machine? What if I lose myself?" "Then you fight back, Em. You promised me you'd stay true to who you are," he replied, his gaze piercing. "Remember why you're doing this." His words washed over her, wrapping her in a cloak of resolve. She knew he was right. Her heart was in this for more than just the corporate ladder. She was driven by a vision, one that had been festering behind every late-night brainstorming session and every passionate conversation about ideals she held dearly. Yet, as the worry settled in her gut, she replayed the words of Gardner, the ambiguous leader who had put her here. "The door will close soon." It felt like a timer counting down to something monumental, but rather than excitement, it stoked a deep unease. Just then, the sound of her phone pinged caught her off guard. A notification popped up on the screen, flashing with Johnson's name. Biting her lip, she took a steadying breath and opened his message. "Looking forward to our meeting tomorrow, Emma. Let's shake things up." "No pressure there," she muttered under her breath. She glanced at her husband, who raised an eyebrow, half smirking. "What did he say?" "Just that he's excited." "I guess the pressure is on for me to make this work," she replied, forcing a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Or a chance to change everything," he countered, his faith in her clear as day. Taking another deep breath, Emma resourced the spark she felt earlier. "All right. Tomorrow, I'll walk in there ready to make an impact." No more self-doubt. The conviction in her voice gave her strength. Maybe stepping into the unknown was less about losing control and more about seizing it. With determination buoying her spirit, she thought about the changes she wanted to see within the company. As they finished dinner, the evening turned into a blend of casual conversation and planning. They mapped out scenarios she might face, and she clung to every supportive word he offered. Hours flew by, and before she knew it, the clock ticked towards bedtime. With her mind racing, she finally crawled into bed. She turned off the light and stared into the darkness. A sense of fierce dedication wrapped around her. But as she reflected, the shadow of uncertainty still loomed. Would she really be able to stand firm in her beliefs tomorrow? Just as sleep began to tug at her eyelids, her phone buzzed again. She grabbed it, heart racing, all eager and anxious at once. "You ready for the challenge, Emma?" It was Gardner, the shadowy figure who seemed to loom over her decisions. "What challenge?" she whispered to the dark room, her pulse quickening as she stared at the screen. Tomorrow was more than just a meeting. Tomorrow was about the future, a future where she would have to fight for her values in a corporate world that tested them, but what she didn't know yet was that this battle would become personal more than just about ideals. As her thoughts spiraled, one chilling realization washed over her: the edge of reality felt dangerously close, and she would have to face it head-on. The next day dawned bright and clear, but Emma's heart felt like a storm cloud brewing overhead. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her blouse, trying to channel the fierce resolve that had ignited in her during that meeting. The weight of yesterday's decisions clung to her like a heavy coat, complex yet empowering. Today's the day, she whispered to herself, her breath catching. It was time to step onto the battleground, not just for herself but for every single person in that office who felt unheard and overlooked. As she walked into the office, the familiar hum of machines and chatter felt different, charged with electricity. Her colleagues were there, glancing at her with curiosity, nerves, and hope. Karen caught her gaze and gave a subtle nod, as if acknowledging the uncharted territory they were about to embark on together. The conference room glowed brightly as Emma entered, feeling like a spotlight was shining down on her. Johnson and Gardner were there, their expressions a mix of anticipation and skepticism. Emma took a deep breath, grounding herself, and sat down. "Thanks for coming, Emma," Gardner began, peering over his glasses. The sharpness in his tone was unmistakable, but it faltered under her gaze. "We're eager to hear your vision for the project." Emma squared her shoulders, feeling the fire within her stir. "Before we jump into the details, I want to address something critical," she said, her voice steady. "This project is about more than just numbers and targets. It requires the commitment of every single one of us to uphold our values. We've been running on empty for too long this time. We need to prioritize our people alongside profits." The room felt electrified. A flicker of surprise crossed Johnson's face. Emma's words hung in the air, and for a moment, everyone seemed to hold their breath. Gardner raised an eyebrow, seeking to redirect the conversation, but Emma pressed on. "I understand the stakes, but if we are to succeed, we must foster an environment built on respect, recognition, and justice. I refuse to be part of a system that sacrifices its workers for the sake of a spreadsheet." Her voice grew stronger, fueled by the community that had rallied behind her. "If we're going to lead from the front, we must do it together, or it won't be worth it. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us." A murmur coursed through the room, their collective energy rising and swelling, echoing off the walls. Emma could see a few of her colleagues nodding, their determination igniting the atmosphere. Gardner shifted in his seat, his expression hard to decipher. "That's a bold stance, Emma. But can you honestly believe that the leadership you propose will be adopted in such a tightly run operation?" "I don't just believe it. I know it's possible if we all fight together," Emma replied. "The company's strength lies not in numbers, but in the people who feel valued." Suddenly, Karen interjected, her voice soft but powerful. "I stand with Emma. We all want this company to thrive, but it has to mean something beyond profits. It has to mean something to us." Unexpectedly, the staff began to share their own thoughts, stories tumbling out as if they'd been waiting for this moment. The collective strength of their voices transformed the once cold conference room into a space alive with connection. "I feel overlooked," one employee confessed, "but Emma is right. We need to be part of the conversation, not just the output." As each voice chimed in, Emma felt herself filled with an unshakable resolve. They had created a ripple, a wave that would not be easily stifled by corporate indifference. Finally, Johnson shot a glance at Gardner, who seemed uncharacteristically stunned. "What do you think?" Johnson asked, a note of curiosity in his voice. Gardner cleared his throat, the pressure mounting in the room as everyone waited for his response. "I admit, this was not what I anticipated. But perhaps there's merit to this new direction," he said slowly. "If we want to position ourselves as leaders in the market, we can't ignore the human aspect of our business." A burst of excitement washed over Emma, and she seized the moment. "So let us be bold moving forward. Let us implement strategies that bring us together, encourage authentic engagement, and lead with compassion. They exchanged glances, the energy was palpable. Suddenly, the door swung open, and Mr. Simmons sauntered in, his brows woven with lines of confusion. "What's happening here?" Emma took a step forward, her heart racing. "We're restructuring with a focus on values over mere targets. It's time to prioritize people and cultivate an inclusive culture that benefits us all." Simmons' frown deepened, the weight of her words pressing him. It felt like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for his response. His gaze shifted across the room, where newfound expressions of determination glistened, and something in him seemed to shift. "I see you are all passionate," he finally uttered, his tone unsure but curious. "If this is the direction you want to take, I'll support you. But you all have to be prepared to follow through. Change isn't easy." Emma felt a rush of jubilance. They had pushed through fear and uncertainty, they had survived the storm together. "We're ready to prove it," she affirmed, the warmth of unity washing over her. And at that moment, Emma realized that everything she hoped for was unfolding. They were no longer alone, hushed shadows, they were warriors ready to redefine their fate. Later that afternoon, as Emma sat at her desk reflecting on the whirlwind, her phone pinged again. A message from her husband read, "So proud of you today. Can't wait to celebrate our victories together." Tears of joy filled her eyes. They were both fighting their battles, but now they were doing it side by side. She closed her eyes, envisioning a future where change was possible, a legacy built on respect and dignity. And as she answered, cherishing his words, Emma felt a newfound sense of belonging, strength washing over her. Yes, the journey had only just begun, but they were no longer standing at the precipice. They were learning to fly together. Subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our growth. Comment below your reactions about this empowering ending, and let us know how you feel. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. They deserve to be inspired. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.